Hey everybody, good morning. It's Tuesday, August 5th. I'm John Weigell here with Mark Dent, and this is the Hustle Daily Show. Americans are officially back in penny pincher mode, with consumer spending stagnating as families ditch date nights for camping trips and say a hard no for their kids' Smurf backpack requests. From beef prices hitting record highs to coffee facing 50% tariffs, people are spending nearly hours a day thinking about money, basically turning budgeting into a part-time job. So what are the details and what companies are really thriving on this? We'll get to that and the biggest business and tech headlines you gotta know right after this. Okay, so over to the headlines, starting with this. A Japanese cosmetics company, Lush Tree, is jumping on a perceived smell problem at Pokemon trading card tournaments, developing a new shampoo specifically for the attendees. It already operates 2 salons that are targeted at otaku, which, if you're not familiar with the vernacular, are fans obsessed with tech or pop culture to the point where it diminishes social skills. The locations are staffed by and decorated by anime and manga fans, so they're really going for a super niche demographic here, Mark.
Very true, but I feel like this is the type of niche innovation that sometimes can just work.
Yeah.
Write what you know, make products for what you know. So if you're in this space, if you're into these types of Pokemon trading cards or anime or whatever the sort of niche subset category might be, then figure out something that needs to be in there.
Yeah, there have been a lot of memes circulating in the past 10 years about just these conventions like Pokemon trading card tournaments or just anime conventions, Comic-Con, where there's a joke going around that folks don't really smell that good at these places, at these conventions, especially in the cosplay uniforms with all of that heat and sweat. So this kind of makes sense to me. It's a pain point of a lot of people that attend these conventions. So maybe this is a good business strategy.
I think it very well could be. Plus, anime is just so popular right now. I mean, it's not as much of a niche as it was 20 years ago.
Yeah. When you see clothing for it in H&M and stuff, you kind of know it's arrived. Next up here, a new Pew Research Center survey revealed that nearly half, about 48% of Americans, share the miserable experience of finding fraudulent charges made on their cards by hackers. That's no joke. I've had to cycle through 4 credit cards at one time last year, so it's really happening out there. Next here, Redditor Nathan Smith launched a 6-month experiment to see what stocks OpenAI's GPT-4o would invest in with only $100. Unfortunately for, I feel like, everybody learning this information, the bot has earned about $25 thus far, which is a 25% value increase, but it did require human oversight and rules. But before you rush off to have ChatGPT invest for you, as I'm sure all of you will, know that experts say results on paper don't necessarily reflect how an AI would perform in real life with a significant investment. So just take that as you will. Speaking of significant investments, people across the globe are looking to make more of an investment in Spotify. Spotify shareholders are pretty happy. The music streamer's stock is up about 7% because of its announcement to raise its prices in Africa, Asia, Europe, and Latin America. So American users, you're safe for now. For example, we're looking at about a €1 increase in the EU. Mark, what do you make of these price raises? I know Spotify usually raises price every other year nowadays, it seems.
Yeah, they have been raising it quite a bit. I think it just comes back to the sort of fact that people tend to forget is that, Spotify has had a really tough time being profitable. Mm-hmm. This could help, but it also might not, because when they've raised prices in the past, they've still had unprofitable quarters. So that said, Spotify stock is up about 4x in the last 2 to 3 years. So the stock is certainly doing well. People are still very confident that it's going to continue to be a huge player and, a profitable player probably too. But, music is expensive. They provide it for a very small amount of money, while obviously compensating artists very little too, for that matter. But it's just such a tricky business that they are in. But yeah, certainly a good day for them.
Yeah, no. I often go back to the thought of maybe me in 2005 being asked, how much would you pay a month to have access to every song ever, almost? And I might say a lot more than the price right now. So I think while they inch up these prices a little bit, I always just kind of keep that in mind. Not to be a corporate savior or anything, but I just keep that in mind sometimes.
Oh, yeah, totally. It is an incredible deal for consumers. And that's part of the reason why Spotify is not profitable, is because it is a really good deal.
Yeah, it is a great deal.
And again, it's a great deal for consumers. Not a great deal for artists, pretty good deal for record labels.
Yeah.
But Spotify is still trying to figure out how good of a deal it is for them. And that's why they have to raise these prices.
Exactly. And finally here, Uber Eats, new AI tools for businesses can summarize customer reviews, generate menu descriptions, and improve photos. For example, AI can, quote, enhance a too close pic in a bad lighting to have better plating, resolution, and framing, though it will taste the same. But Uber Eats is really exploring these AI tools to make the ordering a lot more attractive to you, so beware. Okay, then for more headlines like that, you can subscribe to the show. We'll have more for you tomorrow. But in the meantime here, let's talk about, Mark, the financial squeeze that a lot of Americans are on right now. We've been talking about the beef prices, about egg prices, kind of all year, but I think we're kind of at this tipping point where these big companies are starting to feel a little squeamish about it too.
Yeah, the big companies are starting to feel squeamish about it. And more importantly, the consumers are feeling very squeamish about it.
Yeah, of course.
Spending has not been trending in the right direction. It hasn't like gone in the tank by any means, but there are a lot of numbers out here that look unfavorably, which is, as you suggested, just that stuff is really expensive and people are less willing to want to pay for it. Whereas in like 2021 and 2022, when inflation was going all the way up to 9-10% year over year at one point, people were still spending because of kind of that revenge spending from the pandemic. And, maybe people were just like, whatever, this isn't going to last forever. And now I think there's just so much more uncertainty. But yeah, the Wall Street Journal, they really kind of ran down some of these expenses we're talking about. Beef, highest on record, coffee going up because of tariffs.
Oh, yeah.
And a whole lot of Americans who are thinking twice about these things.
Yeah, it's really kind of up across the board. And these are more so essentials rather than luxury items too, because, your beef, your coffee, groceries, just general things that people buy every day, like laundry detergent. P&G is also noted that sales are a little bit down. So it's very interesting to see across the board because it's not even just like, oh, luxury goods are very expensive. Like, obviously they are. But we're talking about just like the day-to-day necessities to live your life for a lot of Americans. And that's led to a ton of people going out a lot less. Even though grocery prices are increased, they still don't compare to what you get at the restaurant. Chipotle is seeing kind of a lack in sales. Olive Garden is seeing a drop with consumers below the 50K income mark. But other companies like Domino's are seeing quite an upswing because their offerings are a lot less expensive. So it's a real dramatic shift that's going on right now.
When you have either a recession or things happening that are less than ideal for the economy, you do start to see people who have higher incomes start going for these bargain restaurants.
Yeah.
So whereas someone might have gone to their local pizzeria and paid $25 for a large supreme pizza, now it's like, let me go to Domino's and pay $12. And actually, it'll probably be less because if you get it on the right day, it's 2 for $1 or something like that.
Yeah.
There are some other statistics out there. According to Bank of America, which just released some data, spending on services has actually declined for 3 months straight. So again, that's not like goods, but it's still a worrying sign that is kind of indicative of this kind of really unpredictable moment that we're in. And it looks like not just the spending, but the kind of economic effects that are leading to Americans spending less money. Obviously, there was that BLS report from Friday, which showed just 73,000 jobs hired in July, and revising the previous month's data quite a bit that showed a sharp decline in what had previously been reported. And, essentially when you looked at the types of jobs that were hiring, it was healthcare.
Yeah.
The healthcare industry was doing great, was extremely healthy, but everything else was just pretty mid. The job data was not looking great for almost anything else.
Yeah, and that's kind of shocking to me because unemployment is generally not that high.
Yeah, it's still extremely low
compared to previous years. It's still very, very low, but you think the issue could be just people aren't getting paid enough to meet the inflation costs?
Yeah, I think that's definitely part of it. I think also if you look at the jobs data, the unemployment is low. I think 4.2% is what it's come in at most recently, which is just a little bit higher than it's been, but not anything really significant. But I think it's people who, once they do lose their job, they're having a hard time finding it. I was actually reading Derek Thompson's newsletter previously of The Atlantic, and, Derek Thompson pointed out that if you look at the Fred data for the unemployment rate for college graduates who are over 25, so a very niche segment, and that segment is usually really employable. It was over 3% in the last month, and that is at the highest rate that it had been at in about a decade, excluding the pandemic, of course, which threw everything out of whack. So you can break down that unemployment into different sort of things and see more worrying trends than just the overall number.
Yeah,
I think you mentioned it earlier, John, is spending on travel. These sort of big expenses have been going down. People are spending a lot less on airplane travel, but according to the Wall Street Journal, if you look into the data, they're also spending less on Ubers and taxis. So it's like cutting back in so many different parts.
Yep. Cutting back in a lot of ways. Whereas kind of you would have gone on maybe an international trip last year, maybe you're going on a domestic trip in a car this year. So it's really changed a ton. And especially the tourism industry has declined across America. You even have a stat in here, Mark, that trips to New York internationally have been down substantially, about 10%. Which is 2 million travelers. So I think that there's a general sentiment from people internationally that they don't necessarily want to come vacation in the US anymore, which I can completely understand.
Yeah.
Then also Americans themselves aren't really traveling a ton this summer as they would normally in vacation season. So that's definitely another big fact that we have to look at in this whole situation. But at the root of it, these are red flags popping up in almost every industry we have here.
Yeah, it's a lot of uncertainty all over. I think that the takeaway, though, just has to be so what? What's going to happen in the next few months? And I don't think anybody really has the answer to that. There was a lot of uncertainty in the economy just 3 or 4 months ago. There was a lot of uncertainty in the economy 2 or 3 years ago. And there was, red lights flashing recession's coming and it hasn't come yet. So this might just be another one of those kind of momentary lapses where you see people pulling back a little bit and you see, everybody being what the heck is going on? But then somehow everything just sort of keeps going.
Yeah. We could be seeing recessions just on the micro level. Maybe no macroeconomic recession here, but definitely certain groups of people and in certain occupations are just in their own kind of recession void. So maybe that's why it's kind of hard to predict when the recession is, because maybe right now it is here for a lot of different people.
Yeah.
But maybe none of those people are at the top necessarily.
We are all in our own silos in so many ways. Seriously.
Yes. Aren't we all just going through our own recession?
Yeah, no. People have talked about, the tech recession or whatever, even a couple of years ago. There are all kinds of different industries that are doing far worse. You look at manufacturing, for instance, which did see some job gains over the last few years, but not over the last few months. It's not doing so well in terms of adding jobs anymore. Neither are retail and tourism related sectors, like we were just talking about, with fewer people coming to the US from abroad and fewer people traveling within the country. So in these definitely smaller categories, it's very possible to feel like times are very tough and that it is a recession. Certainly for certain categories, it feels the pain is definitely worse.
Yeah. All right, and that'll do it for us today. Thanks for tuning into the Hustle Daily Show. We're a proud part of HubSpot Media. Our editor is Robert Hartwig, and our executive producer is Darren Clark. We got more tech and business coverage in our newsletter. If you're not subscribed, go sign up at thehustle.co/email and follow us on Instagram at The Hustle Daily. We will see you later. Okay, look. Side hustles fail when they consume all of your time. I mean, every single bit of it. The pros, though, work smarter with AI doing all the heavy lifting. To help you out, we just dropped the Side Hustle Accelerator database. You can search your exact problem for your side hustle, grab the perfect prompt, and get results. If you're struggling with marketing, content, and customer service, it's all solved in just seconds. This isn't just another tool, guys. It's your unfair advantage in a spreadsheet. So stop asking AI the wrong questions and start scaling with what actually works. You can get it for free in the link in our show notes. And you can stop right now, actually. Why don't you take a look down at those show notes and tap the link? You don't want to sleep on this.